The hallways buzzed, fresh notebooks, shiny lockers, but for Imani, excitement curdled into dread. Mrs. Smith. Her classroom, always too bright, felt like a spotlight today. Every year the same, every year I hope it will change, it never does. Imani, bright and eager, loved to learn. Mrs. Smith, with her tight smile and colder eyes, seemed to hate that. It started small, an eye roll here, a dismissive wave there, but it grew. Wrong answers, even when correct, earned Imani public scolding. Right answers? Met with silence, while other students were praised. Careless! Mrs. Smith would snap, her voice like chalk on a blackboard. Imani, confused, would look around. Other kids making similar mistakes got gentle corrections. The unfairness stung, a constant itching rash on her confidence. School, once a haven, became a battleground. Imani's grades, once stellar, began to wobble. She withdrew, the light in her eyes dimming. Sleepless nights, stomach aches. Her parents, worried, couldn't understand. How could they? The poison was subtle, invisible to all but its target. Was I not good enough? Smart enough? Each day chipped away at Imani's self-worth. The insidious whispers of self-doubt took root. This was the true damage, the unseen scars, deeper than any grade. Sarah, new to their class, saw it. The pattern. The cruelty disguised as discipline. One day, she'd had enough. During a particularly harsh dressing down of Imani, Sarah spoke up. "That's not fair." Her voice trembling but firm. The classroom went silent. All eyes turned to Sarah, then a murmur. Other students, emboldened, started sharing their own observations. Mrs. Smith, her face turning a mottled red, tried to regain control. But the dam had broken. The truth was out. Word spread like wildfire. It started with a single post, a cry for help that resonated deeply within the community. The story of Imani, a bright and promising student who had been subjected to unfair treatment by Mrs. Smith, a teacher who had long been a respected figure in the school, quickly gained traction. People from all walks of life began to share the post, adding their own experiences and calling for justice. Parents, outraged, demanded action. They gathered in the school auditorium, their voices echoing with frustration and anger. They spoke of their children's experiences, of the fear and anxiety that had plagued them for too long. The school officials, caught off guard by the intensity of the parents' emotions, struggled to maintain control of the meeting. The principal, initially dismissive, was forced to act by the sheer volume of complaints. He had always believed in Mrs. Smith's integrity, but the overwhelming evidence presented by the parents and students left him no choice. He promised a thorough investigation, hoping to quell the rising tide of discontent. An investigation was launched. Testimonies were taken. Students and parents alike came forward, sharing their stories with the investigators. The accounts were harrowing, painting a picture of a teacher who had abused her power for far too long. The school officials took notes, their faces grim as the extent of the problem became clear. And slowly, the truth of Mrs. Smith's behavior, long ignored, could no longer be denied. The teachers, who had once turned a blind eye, now found themselves grappling with their own complicity. They held meetings, discussing how they could have missed the signs, and what they could do to prevent such a situation from happening again. This wasn't just about Imani anymore. The students, who had once felt isolated and powerless, began to find their voices. They talked among themselves, sharing their own experiences and supporting each other. They realized that they were not alone, and that together, they could make a difference. It was about every student who'd ever felt the sting of prejudice, who'd been marginalized because of their race, gender, or background. The stories that emerged were heartbreaking, but they also highlighted the resilience and strength of the students. They had endured so much, but they were determined to fight for a better future. Who'd been silenced by fear. The fear of retribution, of being singled out, had kept many students from speaking up. But now, with the support of their peers and the community, they found the courage to break their silence. They spoke out, not just for themselves, but for all those who had been too afraid to do so. The community, awakened, rallied around Imani, a testament to the power of speaking truth to power. They organized protests, held meetings, and demanded change. The school, once a place of fear and discrimination, began to transform into a beacon of hope and justice. The story of Imani and the community's response became an inspiration, showing that when people come together, they can create real and lasting change. The evidence was undeniable. Mrs. Smith, stripped of her denials, was removed from the classroom. The school board, shamed by the public outcry, promised change: diversity training, sensitivity workshops, a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination. Justice, though slow, had prevailed, but the fight wasn't over. The scars, both visible and invisible, remained. Yet there was hope. The system for once had listened, and in that, there was a glimmer of a brighter future. The school, once a place of pain, became a place of healing. Students, empowered by their collective voice, stood up for each other. The hallways, once filled with whispers of fear, now resonated with laughter and acceptance. It took time, therapy, the unwavering support of her family and newfound friends. Slowly, Imani began to heal. The light returned to her eyes, the spark of confidence rekindled. Imani's story is a stark reminder. Racism thrives in silence. It's a silence that can be deafening, a silence that can be complicit. When we choose not to speak up, we allow the roots of prejudice to grow deeper and stronger. It festers in the shadows of indifference. In the quiet corners where no one dares to look, it gains strength. The empty hallways and silent classrooms are witnesses to the unspoken words and unchallenged biases. But when we find our voices, we break the silence. We shine a light on the darkness, and in doing so we begin to dismantle the structures that uphold discrimination. Every voice raised in protest, every hand lifted in solidarity, chips away at the walls of bigotry. When we stand up for what's right, we inspire others to do the same. Courage is contagious. One act of bravery can ignite a movement, and one person's stand can become a collective roar for justice. We have the power to dismantle even the most deeply rooted prejudices. It starts with education, with conversations, and with the willingness to listen and learn from one another. Unity is our strength, and together we can create a world where everyone is treated with dignity and respect. We must all be like Sarah, who stood up against injustice despite the risks. Her determination and courage remind us that change is possible when we refuse to be silent, willing to speak truth to power no matter the cost. It's not always easy, and it often comes with challenges, but the impact of standing up for what is right is immeasurable. We must all be allies, standing shoulder to shoulder with those who face discrimination. Our support can make a world of difference. It's about showing up, speaking out, and being there for one another, amplifying the voices of the marginalized, ensuring they are heard and acknowledged. It's about creating spaces where everyone feels safe to share their stories and experiences, and fighting for a world where every child, regardless of their background, has the opportunity to thrive. A world where diversity is celebrated and every individual is valued for who they are. Regardless of their skin color, their culture, or their beliefs, every child deserves to grow up in an environment where they feel safe, seen, and valued. Feel safe, seen, and valued. This is the lesson for us all. It's a call to action, a reminder that we all have a role to play in creating a more just and equitable world. The fight for equality is a marathon, not a sprint. There will be setbacks, there will be resistance, but every step forward, no matter how small, is a victory. Every voice raised in solidarity, every hand extended in friendship, brings us closer to the world we envision, a world where everyone is treated with dignity and respect. But we must never give up. The road is long and winding, filled with obstacles that may seem insurmountable. Yet, it is in these moments of challenge that our true strength is revealed. Together we can overcome any barrier, break down any wall, and dismantle any system of oppression. We must continue to challenge injustice, to speak out against inequality wherever we see it. It is our collective responsibility to ensure that no one is left behind, that every voice is heard, and that every person has the opportunity to thrive. To educate ourselves and others, to learn from the past, and to teach the next generation the values of empathy, compassion, and justice. Education is the key to unlocking a future where equality is not just a dream but a reality, and to build bridges of understanding across racial divides. By coming together, by listening to each other's stories, and by recognizing our shared humanity, we can create a tapestry of unity that is stronger than any force that seeks to divide us. Imani's story is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Her journey, filled with trials and triumphs, reminds us that even in the face of adversity, we have the power to rise, to persevere, and to make a difference. It is a call to action for us all, to stand up, to speak out, and to take meaningful steps towards creating a more just and equitable society. Each of us has a role to play, and together our collective efforts can bring about lasting change. Let us honor her experience by creating a world where her story is no longer an anomaly, but a common narrative. A world where stories of resilience, courage, and unity are the norm, not the exception, but a testament to a past we have overcome. Let us remember the struggles of those who came before us, and let their sacrifices inspire us to continue the fight for justice. Their legacy is our foundation, and it is upon this foundation that we will build a brighter future, a world where every child can shine bright and free, where the color of one's skin, the language they speak, or the place they come from does not determine their worth or their opportunities, a world where every child can dream big and where those dreams can become a reality.